What up, friends? It is beyond brutal out here. But today we're going to be reviewing Olivia Rodrigo's debut album, Sour. This is the debut full-length by the 18-year-old singer and Disney star extraordinaire Olivia Rodrigo. Ever since releasing Driver's License earlier this year, Olivia's just blown up. It's actually been kind of incredible to see. I can't even remember the last time I've seen an artist blow up so quickly, especially someone so young. From the sound of it though, Olivia definitely had potential, from her honest and emotional songwriting to her willingness to just try new sounds and her very expressive vocal delivery. I'm happy to say that all of these risks and ideas panned out pretty well on her debut album. Right out of the gate, her genre-bending ways are immediately expressed with the opening track, Brutal. A pop-punky anthem of sorts, the heavier and lighter riffs carry a lot of the emotional weight in this track, from both her anger to also her kind of cheeky moments of self-loathing. One thing that I think makes Olivia really stand out among her peers is how much she wears her heart on her sleeve, or in her vocals in this case. She has no problem in making her voice more raw or expressing sarcastic tones in these tracks. Instead of wanting to sound pristine and polished, she wants to sound raw and real, which I much prefer, and it definitely fits the whole lyrical style that she's going on here, with all of these teen pop anthems and a lot of the ballads as well. Regarding the lyrics, they're mostly pretty simple, but I think it fits her sound really well, and honestly, the very direct delivery on a lot of these ones actually improve the emotional connection I feel a lot of people will have to these songs. It's also much easier for the vocals to carry weight, especially when she exclaims, "God, it's brutal out here." While many new artists seem to be taking inspiration from Billie Eilish or Ariana Grande, Olivia seems to be taking a lot of notes from Lorde, actually. It's definitely present on the track Traitor, where her sort of soft and delicate vocals suddenly burst out into these shouted anthems. This album does have an abundance of ballads, which can drag sometimes, but I think this one actually really stands out. This is because of its unique blend of acoustic and alternative stylings, along with lyrics and heartbroken delivery about her love interest basically becoming bored with her and breaking up, yet getting another girlfriend like immediately afterwards. Next we have Driver's License, that huge single, and maybe it's overplayed, but that just doesn't detract from this song's quality. The opening cinematic, if you will, really exemplifies all the aspects of young love, and it unravels them in kind of a story-like fashion, almost similar to Lorde's The Louvre, actually. I like how the track steadily builds, along with all of these delicate piano riffs backing up the somber scenes that Olivia is describing. She really has her storytelling carry this track, and it just builds up even further by the time we get to the bridge. Which, by the way, is the best part of the song, and honestly one of my favorite aspects of the record. This bridge, man, it's great. It's the perfect culmination of the story, and her flow switch and added emphasis on the beat and synths, it just has this whole little tapestry of sound that it's just really mesmerizing to listen to. I think it also ends really well with the closing line, "You said forever, now I drive alone past your street." The toy-like instrumentals on Deja Vu really make it stand out among the other ballads on the track, and her isolation in her vocals carries a lot of weight. The fuller beat that kicks in after the chorus, along with those swirling synths that go in and out, they add a degree of harshness that expresses Olivia's growing and building frustrations. I also love the subtle touches of the guitar and the shouted background vocals that kind of lead us to the height of her emotions as they continue to the bridge and the outro. Another thing that this track shows off pretty well is how grounded her lyrics are, getting away from all of that experimental and opaque imagery and just focusing on emotions and creating scenarios that people can relate to. Especially when she weaves together tales like how she sees her ex sharing jackets with his new fling like they used to, or how he taught him piano. With Good For You, the pop-punk vibes are back and even more pronounced. It almost has like a No Doubt sound to it, which is honestly pretty fun and a kind of neat throwback. Being one of the most upbeat songs on the record, it's fitting that it's a sort of sarcastic banger with a huge bass and emphasis on the humorous delivery of the lyrics as well. The guitar riffs are quick and punchy and balance out her vocals quite nicely. I like the different vocal styles here, from the lighter tones to the shouts, and how she uses these techniques to emphasize certain phrases like how he's a damn sociopath. With Happier, the piano is a very welcome touch here, kind of grounding us from the more upbeat tracks like Good For You. It has a sort of waltz vibe to it, and the lyrics about wanting to move on and be the bigger person while also still being kind of tied to the past were pretty well done. I love the lines about how she wishes her ex was happy, but not happier than when they were together, and also how she acknowledges how he's just feeding other girls the whole eternal love bullshit without actually meaning it. It's a simple track, but it's a pretty clever one, and I feel like that describes a lot of the songs on the record, honestly. Oh boy, now it's time for my favorite track, Jealousy, Jealousy. Oh, the alternative vibes are strong, with some gritty bass and funky piano passages. The groove on this one is immaculate. Olivia's flow is really smooth, along with having some sort of snarky edge to it that kind of permeates throughout this track. Her vocals in general on this one have a lot of personality, and I feel like they showcase a lot of her charms really well. I love that bridge so much with that theatric piano and how Olivia just goes off about her insecurities and kind of analyzes the lives of people that she feels like have lives that are too perfect. This is probably my favorite moment of the album, actually. I feel like this is also the prime example of her talent in being able to convey a bunch of different tones that match the lyrical subjects and things like that. Like, she really knows how to create a scenario. She knows how to voice every person and every thought in the scenarios. Like, it's great. Now, you might have noticed that I might have skipped a few songs on the record, mainly the ballads, and to reiterate something that I said in the past comment, I feel like the album is a bit too ballad heavy overall, and I feel like the worst offender of this is probably Favorite Crime. After all of these ballads, which at least had like maybe one or two elements that were pretty interesting to it, a generic acoustic ballad is just kind of unnecessary at this point. The lyrics just don't really have the wit present in the other songs on the record, and they just come off as a bit boring as well. Her vocals are still good, and she really belts here and there, but it's just pretty standard compared to the rest of the record. Hope You're Okay, which ends the album, is kind of what I preferred Favorite Crime to sound like. I think the storytelling from Olivia's friend's perspective is pretty interesting, and it does set the narrative apart from the rest of the songs. The simple strum of the electric guitar and the synth effects have a nice atmosphere. It kind of fits the whole nostalgic look back at all of these stories and events that happened to her friends. However, I would have preferred the album to go out with a banger like Good For You, or maybe with like one of those alternative styled songs like Jealousy, Jealousy, or even Driver's License. I feel like ending on such a slow note kind of undercuts a lot of the energy that she was establishing previously, and ending on yet another ballad when the album is already full of them, it makes it not as memorable as it probably could have been. Honestly though, for a debut project, this was pretty good. A decent variety of sounds, witty and relatable lyrics, and an incredible amount of expressiveness are all some talents that Olivia can call her own. I do think she's probably still finding her sound a little bit as she wears some of her influences like Lorde on her sleeve, but this will probably fade in time as she, makes more tracks and has a few albums under her belt. And once again, a few too many ballads on this one for my liking. They weren't terrible, so they at least generally had one or two things that helped them set them apart from the other ones, but the album's pacing kind of suffers because of it, especially when she sprinkles in those energetic tracks in between the ballads. It's not as cohesive as it probably could have been. I'm feeling a decent 7 on Olivia Rodrigo's Sour. Now, of course, we do have to talk about the album cover on this show, and honestly, it's a pretty good album cover. It definitely does have that sort of teen pop aesthetic to it, with just a picture of her with a blank background, and she has all the stickers over her, but it captures some of her wit, too, because she's, kind of disgusted by the teen pop aspect of the cover, it feels like, or maybe that's just about teenage life in general. So it's kind of funny. I think it captures her whole, personality really nicely. And it's just a pretty simple yet well-designed cover, I feel. So those were my thoughts about this debut album by Olivia Rodrigo. What do you guys think about it? Are you kind of on the hype wave? Is Olivia your girl? Is she the one that's describing your life right now? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that precious bell, my precious, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.